Hi everyone, welcome to the Oclas vlog channel, All Things Consultancy. And today we have a guest, Mubarak. He's in the oil and gas background, and we're having a very interesting conversation today around the significance of external consultants coming into transformation programs. But before we go into a lot more detail, I'll introduce my colleague Shahina,
Hi everyone,
who you've met before or seen on the channel before. And Mubarak, please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, your years of experience, and all that type of useful information.
My name is Mubarak. Mubarak Aokweju. I currently work for an oil and gas company back in Nigeria. I've got about 10 years experience in the oil and gas. Before that, I used to work with NHS, and I've got 3 to 5 years experience in NHS.
Oh wow, so that's a good mix.
Yeah. Very good mix, actually. And within the oil and gas spectrum, you have to understand that it's a big organization. So you have the different sort of business within the business, if that makes any sense. You have the supply chain. Within the supply chain, you have the procurement, you have the contracting, you have the facilities management. You have different units as well, which is security and PGPA. Even focus on the core business, FEMCP and everything like that. FEMCP means facility engineering and the major capital project.
Okay, yeah.
So all those things are quite embedded to make the current oil and gas company I currently work for. So in the past 2013, I was fortunate to be able to be a part of the transformation team for the support service.
Support service. Okay.
Yes, so the support services are basically non-core business within the oil and gas. So the supply chains of this world, the security departments of this world, the end user relations, like government relations departments and everything like that, HR departments. They're all support service to the core business. Yes, as it is.
I see.
So I've been in that role for till last year, 2018, and at the beginning of this year, I've moved back into supply chain management.
Wow.
So that's me in a nutshell, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Really useful.
I understand over the years you've worked with external consultancies on transformation.
Correct.
But you also have worked on in-house resource-based transformation as well. So I know today we want to kind of go over around the whole external consultants, bringing them on board, the value of that, and then also your tips in regards to how best to get the most of that relationship and the money that you're spending on these consultants and how to make the most of that.
Okay. So the first thing is, transformation is almost a 180 change in some cases. Sometimes not entirely. So for you to do that kind of change, right, it's difficult for you to get the in-house people to effect that change. Yeah. The reason that I say that is based on experience that I have. You're reporting to some of the business leaders.
Correct.
That you need to change. And it's difficult for you to break those barriers or to talk to them in a different way or to be abrupt or to be very frank with them in those discussions. Because after you finish that transformation of that project, or the case may be, you have to go back to report to them. So that makes it difficult for you for career progress and all that kind of stuff. So that makes it difficult.
So it's very political, man.
Basically, yes.
Yeah,
so if you get an external consultant in, they're just there for a brief period of time, depending on how you scope and how you manage that work that you give to them. And you can be able to get value from that because they're not going to be there in the next 2-3 years. Their career progression is not tied to that company, so to speak.
Correct.
So they're willing to be able to break down barriers. They can be able to speak to the upper management to make sure that they get the right level of work done. So the first thing is, depending on the transformation that you want, just like you said, I've worked with a consultant group that came in to change our business, to form our business. The actual work was called Shared Services Optimization Maturity Assessment. So they looked at the entire shared services that we currently work on and be able to see how best that shared service can support the core service, right? So basically looking at the cost center against the profit center. And the value was immense. From the value, we're still enjoying it today. But that's because they were able to break barriers. They were able to stop that mindset of, oh, this is the way we do things, this is the way we traditionally do things. It's difficult for them to pivot to another way to do things. Anytime they had a barrier, they could take it to upper management, and the upper management can obviously help them break down that barrier compared to if you were doing it in-house, for example, reporting your next level management to the upper management might be a bit difficult because of the politics that's involved. As well as when you get with consultants, because they were quite versed in what they were doing. They had the domain knowledge, they had the understanding of what the business structure is. They were able to bring best practices from different businesses that have worked in the past, and they were able to make that. They were able to see our processes, and they were able to see where those best practices can fit in, and be able to optimize that business process. Honestly, by the time we finished, the delivery was really good. Delivery was crisp. One of the other thing you will learn is your folks that are in that business would learn from them.
Correct.
In my case, that's what happened. That's what made me one of the transformation lead in the company currently, because I learned from these consultants. I was able to see the way they think. I was able to see the way they elicit ideas. I was able to see the way they were able to remove bottlenecks. I was able to see the way they prefer solutions to different challenges or different pain points in the business. And sometimes they might not even be pain point, but you are thinking of 10 years down the line, how can I do a long-term transformation change? So that gave me a lot of knowledge. And from then on, based on the knowledge I got, at some point they stopped needing the external consultants to come, because I've gotten a good level of training from them. So that's the first part of the question. The second part is, how do you manage the consultants so that you can get value? Firstly, you need to be able to scope your work properly. You need to be able to have a vision. Obviously, what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to gain? What are you trying to get from this discussion, or from the work that the consultants are bringing? And you have to understand that when you bring this consultant in, they will be able to either expand the work or stay within scope. So if they're expanding the work, is based on their knowledge that they've got based on the work, and based on what they've done before. Maybe you missed one or two different touch points in the scope document that you didn't add to that. So it's either you agree to that touch point, or you do not agree. But as soon as you fix up on the scope, you must be able to create a definitive timeline. Correct. So that timeline, because the way you pay consultants is mostly based on timelines. So phase gates, timelines and stuff like that. So you need to be able to have a definitive timeline. You have to understand that some timelines have to be flexible as well.
Correct.
That's because of, for example, based on when they were doing the work, they thought this data was easily accessible, but it took them more time for them to get this data, for them to be able to make the best decision. So those things can happen. But I think if you have that definitive scope first, you have the definitive timeline, and you understand the deliverables towards those phase gates, that you're getting, that will make the job very effective. Very smooth, and be able to understand right from the beginning what value am I getting. So, for example, the value could be cost reduction. I want to be able to operate at 20% less OPEX cost, like I'm doing before, or I want to be able to make a 20 or 30% more revenue that I was doing per year, or whatever the case may be. And the way they would agree, they will work towards that value is key as well. Just like you mentioned, phase gates. So it's not at the end of the project or at the end of the life cycle of the initiative or the work that you start to see what benefits or what the consultants are doing. Based on the phase gate, you start to see the trend that they're trending towards that target. And I think if you have that in place, you would get a lot of value. The other thing I would recommend is the business. They must embed someone, and someone that they want to
for continuity purposes.
For someone that they want to even develop. It can be like a development assignment for that person. That's what happened in my case, where that you tie that person to that work what the consultants are doing, and with that, the folk can actually learn a lot about thinking outside the box, thinking of bringing more initiative and more productivity to the business. I think I answered those two questions.
And I like that point, actually, the last point about embedding somebody from your business within the consultants. because you're right, actually it allows that continuity,
Correct.
and it's a training opportunity for your own team for the best practices. So that's actually a really good point.
Very valid. I think even just to touch on that slightly, like when you think about a typical project delivery life cycle, or in the case of transformation, you obviously have the high level views. You have your start of the project, you have the middle bit where you're sort of scoping things out, and then you're agreeing things, and of course the implementation. If we just look at the start and the end, you touched on something around documentation, continuity, where you actually bring on board people within the business as a consultant. You empower them, you give them the relevant training, or they even shadow you. More or less, you mentor them in this journey. That way they sort of understand what you do. But at the end of your consultancy, it meant, well, the way we work as Oclas is, we have certain documentations we deliver, and we hand over to the clients, which is more or less like a guide on what happens next. So we refer to this as the post-implementation phase. And the value with that is it's you've done your bit as an external consultant. While you're there, you're empowering the individual who is a full-time resource in the business. He understands what you're doing, why you're doing, and when you're leaving, you have, I call it like a Bible, which you hand over, like the Bible, process Bible, I refer to it as, which you leave behind for the clients, who then use to actually ensure they're delivering according to what you might be trying to do. So I thought that was something I should mention. Something else that came to mind when you were talking is, there's a lot of talk around, particularly in the UK, IR35. I'm sure you're wondering, okay, how does this necessarily tie into it? But in the UK, for instance, if you're on site as a consultant or as a contractor, or whatever the case might be, depending on the piece of work, you are not allowed to do certain things the employees are doing. What's your thought on that from a consultancy perspective and from an external, internal side of things? Coming from an outside into a company, you're not allowed to unless you use their laptops. You have to use your own laptops. You're not allowed to partake in certain, or maybe we should have this as another topic, actually. Just thinking about it, actually, because there's quite a lot to say. I think it's a tricky one.
It's not entirely. It depends on what you want to expose to the consultants. So I am not privy to the IR35 process, for example, because obviously I work in Nigeria. But based on the folks that we work with, the consultants we work with, and depending on the value that you want to get from them, you might have to expose your business a lot to them, because that's where they can get the right product or the right solution towards your pain points. If you do not expose your business, if you do not expose, you have to sign different contracts. Make sure to protect yourself, making sure that they can't expose your business to another client, or depending on if they can do it for a competitor, for example. So all those things must come in place. But the key part of it is you have to expose your data, your business, the right level of it that will make the work smooth and perfect for the consultant.
They have to be embedded to some level, don't they?
That's true.
If you're going to bring in an external consultant and you're going to keep them external,
it's tricky, especially in the transformation space.
But I think from a sort of a hardware and sort of asset point of view, actually nowadays it's very easy to deal with that. I know there's a lot of the bigger companies who have got legacy processes, legacy systems where they struggle to do that. But that shouldn't be a barrier to bring external consultants in.
Yeah, true.
But there's a level of bringing them.
Correct.
But then, just the last point from my side is, did you find there was, or there's any issue with how invested the consultants were in the project or in the business objective, naturally because it's not their own personal, or that it's not their own business objective, but did you find there was enough level of investment in that for them to deliver the objectives and the values?
So the way I look at it is a win-win situation. When the consultants come in, they want to win, and the only way they win is if the business wins. So what that makes sense is that you want to be able to put it on your profile that you've done this level amount of job for company B or company C, and this is the value you're able to get from that company. And the only way you can get that value is because the business have won as well. And you are in turn putting that on your profile, obviously, to sell more of your services across more people. So in terms of investing their own time and from the consultant we worked with, they did that quite vigorously. They were quite thorough. That gave me personally a level of content as to how I would continue the work even beyond what they brought in. So you mentioned like a document process that they leave behind when they're leaving, and I'm glad that Oclas do that as well. But for you to translate that document into continuity, they need to have learned how to
understand how to work the document. Yeah.
So that's what will bring that continuity. If that document was just dropped outside after the work that, for example, Oclas would have done, it would be difficult for them to translate that document into actual work. But because they've worked, hopefully, if the company is wise enough to embed someone with the external consultants, they would get more value.
Okay. That's
true. Yeah. Well, I guess I have no more questions. I guess we're going to wrap it here. Well, thank you all so much for listening. As usual, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop us a line. If you liked the video, like it, please share it with your colleagues, your friends, and let us know if you want anything discussed in our next video. Yeah, thank you so much and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.